Now that we are in this for a period of time, is working from home effective for everyone equally?
I think it's very personal. I really do. I mean, we've done a lot of, we've participated in research. We've consumed a lot of research at Logitech around working from home and what is this a trend line that's going to continue? And I think it's sort of mixed. I mean, what we can say definitively in the research that we've seen is that most people do want to have some flexibility for working from home. The number of days kind of can differ depending upon the individual and the type of job too, right? Absolutely. But in general, people like to have about 2 or 3 days. Like the majority of people would like to have a minimum of 1 day and ideally 2 or 3 days where they're working from home. For some roles, that is much harder to achieve than others. I mean, obviously, frontline workers, firefighters, that's not an option. But for example, engineers too might need to have time in labs. Or people that need certain equipment, scientists, et cetera. Like there's a requirement for them to be in the office a certain amount. If you're a knowledge worker like I am or like you are, most people want to have some degree of working from home, and they do want to have some time in the office also, but primarily that is for social time. It's not necessarily because they think they're more effective working at the office. So that's a big jump that's happened over the last 6 months, and a trend line that we've seen from when people were sort of forced to work from home and they weren't really accustomed to it. They weren't prepared. They probably didn't have the right setup in terms of having a webcam and a headset and a desk set up at a place in their home that they could work. People have really are sort of over that hump. And we're also finding that companies are not finding a decrease in effectiveness of having people working from home. In fact, if anything, people are, as we talked about, working more than they ever have before. Mm-hmm. So that's not so much the concern, but we do think that people enjoy the social time with their coworkers, and that there's a sense of bonding, and that team sense is important. And so many companies, of course, mine included, are trying to find a lot of ways of replicating that, without it being in person. We are seeing, of course, we're seeing lots of companies that are in the news that are, moving to fully remote workforces, might be discontinuing plans to open up more campuses or reducing their corporate real estate, et cetera. So we're seeing that trend line continue. But it remains to be seen whether that will happen in perpetuity or not. We do know that companies, one thing that's a huge benefit is the ability to recruit from anywhere. So if you have people that are working, all remote or partial remote, then the situation that many companies find themselves in recruiting and area hubs for talent where it's very expensive, that goes away. And so Absolutely. There's a huge benefit from a talent perspective for people continuing to work from home. So I think whether you're talking about it from the employee's point of view or from companies' points of view, I think this is going to be something that we're going to see be a permanent change, at least in some job categories and in some countries.